Welcome back to my YouTube channel and podcast, Wonders and Miracles, where we get to celebrate miraculous moments in everyday lives. I'm your host, Liza Lawrence, and I'm so happy to have you join me today as we talk with Scott from Eastern Kentucky. Scott has had many health challenges in his life, and in the process of learning how to govern his life and recapture his health, he has also rediscovered his faith and gives all the credit to God. So before we jump into this episode, I would like to once again highlight my favorite gratitude journal, The Blessings I Witnessed Today. I created this journal in hopes that we can capture our daily miracles. Gratitude is a powerful way to notice the miracles that are occurring in your life each day. You can find this journal on Amazon.com or on my website at wondersandmiracles.com and start recording your blessings and miracles today. And if you love miracle stories and want to hear more, hit the like and subscribe button so you can catch all the inspiring, uplifting episodes of real people sharing real miracles. So, Scott, thanks for being here today, and go ahead and share with us your story.
Well, thank you, Liza, for the privilege to be here with you and your viewers and listeners. I guess the preamble to my story might be that I'm a little hard-headed. I think a lot of us tend to really focus on what feels comfortable and sort of where we've been and what we know. And I guess the story that I'd love to share with you, and I'm really very happy to do so today, is one of finally surrendering and acknowledging, gee whiz, I don't have this figured out. I was born and raised in Arizona. I was the youngest of four kids. My mom and dad had come from very large families and had been, pretty poor as kids. And so my dad's definition, a roof over my head, the electricity never got turned off. We always had food. And boy, that is something that I think some people don't have. And so I was pretty lucky as a kid to have all that. We were not a particularly religious family. And sadly, being the youngest, as the big kids moved out or went away to college, towards the end of my high school time, my mom and dad ran into a bumpy road, and my mom and dad separated. My dad worked out of Phoenix, but he was often out of town. And so here I am, a 16, 17-year-old kid in the late 70s with too much time and too much opportunity to make the wrong choice. And boy, I really did. And finished high school and was doing the wrong stuff and had a job at Montgomery Ward. I don't know if you remember Monkey Ward's, Montgomery Ward, but it was a store. It was a lot like J.C. Penney. They had a hardware department. I worked in the hardware department, sold paint. I remember the day. It's December 3rd, 1980. I had mixed paint for a man, and I opened the can to show him the paint. And as I put the lid on, and we had a little mallet we hit the top of it with, it squirted the man with paint. Well, in those days, the boss did not mess around. I got fired on the spot.
Wow.
10:30 in the morning, fired. 17 years old. So I'm driving down 27th Avenue in Phoenix, and I'd been a ball player and had done pretty well with all that stuff, but I'd always struggled a little bit with self-doubt. And all of a sudden, I felt a wave of depression that I had never felt before. And I pull up to an intersection, and on the right-hand corner, there's an Army recruiter. And on the left-hand corner, there's a bank employment office, biggest bank in Arizona. I just kind of contemplated, like, what should I do? And I turned left and I went into the bank recruiter office and I got a job. And at 3 o'clock that afternoon, December 3rd, 1980, I got a job in the mailroom at a bank. And I stayed 35 years, grew and developed and took every opportunity that they would give me, and ended in executive management. I always say, it's a story of from the mailroom to the boardroom. It's a great miracle. We could stop right there. That in and of itself was a miracle.
Yeah.
However, that depression continued. I had a lot of self-doubt, and I continued to get promoted and opportunities came, but it just, I was not happy. in my middle 20s, I met a gal at the bank, and I noticed that she was pretty active in her faith. So we started hanging out, and one thing led to another. And I was able to accept the Savior and be baptized. And it really was a very big positive in my life. I also noticed that doing the nonsense that I had been doing could get me in trouble at the bank. And I didn't want to mess up what I believed was a good thing. And it was a good thing. And so that relationship wasn't particularly long lasting. We didn't have any children or anything. But what I got from that relationship with that young woman was a testimony of Jesus Christ. And I was able then to go a few years as a bachelor. And one day they called and they said, "We want you to manage this one particular branch." And this branch had come in dead last. 350 branches in this franchise had come in dead last the year before. And so I figured, well, it can only go one direction, right? So the first day I arrived, the lady in charge of the tellers, and I didn't know much about the money side of the bank, she quit. And so I panicked. I was like, what am I going to do? And I called a friend of mine and I said, "Do you know anybody that could do this job?" And he said, "I have a young woman. She's bilingual. She's brilliant. Yes, you should talk to her." I interviewed her. I interviewed several people. In the interview, I had a question where I asked, "What would you do if we counseled about a solution and you gave me your solution, I gave you my solution, and I chose my solution? How would you react?" And her answer was good, but I was insecure and immature as a leader. And so I slept on it a night or two. I called her back for an interview. And she explained that she was a sibling in one of 12. She was one of 12 kids, big Hispanic family in Arizona. And that she had learned that teams were how you succeed, and that we would counsel, but that if we chose my solution, the team would never know. That would all be in private, and that we would lock arms and be a team. Well, I couldn't believe that I had fallen into this good luck. And we worked together a year, and we took that darn thing from worst to first.
Wow.
So we got recognition, and I was recognized. And for the first time in my adult life, I thought the depression was behind me. I got promoted, and several months later, I bumped into her, and we started going to lunch, and one thing led to another, and we started dating. She was a single mom. She had a little 18-month-old. It was just the greatest experience of my lifetime. Just spending time with her. I'll tell you real fast, parenthetically, I'm a big Dodger fan. And on those first couple dates, I had a Dodger hat on. And after one of the dates, she had needled me because her big brothers were Cincinnati Reds fans. I dropped her off at the door and I went to walk away. I turned around. I said, "Hey, you're going to think I'm a weirdo. I know this is really early in getting to know you. But if we were to get serious and fall in love and get married and have a bunch of kids, I'm not raising kids as Cincinnati Reds fans. They're going to be Dodger fans." And she thought for a second, and she knew that I was an Arizona Cardinals football fan. Well, she was a Cowboys fan. And she said, "I'll make you a deal. If we get serious, fall in love, get married, have a bunch of kids, you can raise them Dodger fans if I can raise the kids Cowboy fans." And we shook hands on it.
Oh,
well,
funny.
We fell in love and we got married. And I have great respect for blended families. In our situation, the baby's dad didn't want anything to do with the situation. So I was able to adopt my oldest daughter, and she grew up with our last name. And the bank transferred us to Louisville, had another baby there, transferred us to Columbus, Ohio, had a couple more babies there, left that bank and was recruited to a bank in Detroit and got up there, and we were loving it. And then the '08 banking crisis happened, and I got called to a meeting. I was a senior vice president or something. And they sent me to a meeting in Cleveland. I get off the elevator. There's 21 other senior vice presidents sitting in a row. And it was slaughter. They let us all go on the same day. On that drive home from Cleveland back to Detroit, the depression kicked in again. And I couldn't shake it. And on top of it, I couldn't find a darn job. It was just a tough, tough economy. was literally 3 weeks earlier, had taken my vehicle to the dealer to get the oil change. I went back to the dealer and asked if I could clean their showroom at night because I had to feed my family. After a year of those difficult times, a bank called and sent us to West Virginia. And then my last assignment is here in Eastern Kentucky. So I tell you all that to tell you that I always thought my depression was situational. And, we were very active in church. My kids all have testimonies of the gospel, and I feel super blessed by that. And my wife was an amazing, my sweet wife was just amazing at navigating all those moves and helping us. But I just couldn't shake the darn depression. Well, one day I'm at work and I start to feel lightheaded. That evening, the kids had a activity and we went to it. I had a heart attack in the activity, fell to the ground. They rushed me to the ER. They put stents in that night, and we thought this was behind us. Well, a year later, I was feeling lightheaded again, went back to the doctor. They sent me about an hour and a half away to Charleston, West Virginia, to a specialist. I'm in his cath lab. They're looking at my heart through the camera. I have another heart attack. They rushed me in, quadruple bypass.
Wow.
And that night in the recovery, CeCe says to the doctor, should there be this much blood in this bucket where the tube comes out of your chest? He said, no. They took me back in. A suture had burst and they opened me up. So I always told the kids, Daddy had quadruple bypass twice in the same day. Finally, I got to recovering and I got back to work. It's not uncommon for depression and heart stuff to go together. And I was depressed and I didn't have any stamina. And at the ripe old age of 54, I had to take a medical retirement. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And it was so heartbreaking because I had felt so much sense of accomplishment. I'd transitioned from like my identity was my stuff on the ball field to my identity was the stuff at the bank. And I was just lost. And I was just so in such despair. I'd never grown facial hair at the bank. I've got it closely trimmed now, but that first year, I let it grow. I remember the rock band ZZ Top. I mean, I let it grow. CeCe had always been a stay-at-home mom. And she got a job in a retirement home and was doing very well there. And she came home one day and said, the ladies were telling me about this place. They play 70s rock, which is kind of my genre. Let's go over there and maybe you'll fit in with some of the guys there. And so we went over there and I ordered a big steak and she ordered a little bowl of green beans. And I said, wait, why aren't you eating dinner? She said, I have a stomach ache. I said, we better go to the doctor. Within a week, we had a diagnosis that she had advanced stomach cancer. She was a battler. She was so courageous, such a warrior, and so humble, and so willing to do whatever the doctor said. She couldn't beat it, and I lost her. It's now almost 3 years ago. I lost her, and that was a tough time. So here I'm laying in the bed. I've got the pillow over my head. The big kids are all off at college. The baby's a senior in high school. I'm supposed to be the leader in the home, and he's the one checking on me. And, I wasn't bathing, and it was bad. It was not good. I just was stuck in an abyss for a couple of years. Earlier this year, I was on the phone with my brother. And in the middle of all this, I'd started to gain weight, which is the enemy of cardiac issues.
Yeah.
I'm 6'4", and I was creeping literally towards 300 pounds. And he said, brother, you look kind of heavy. And I said, yeah, I've gained some weight. And he goes, so that's not helping the depression. I said, no. I got off the phone. He revealed how much he weighed. Well, I'm pretty competitive with my brother, and I bawled like a baby. I bawled. I can't believe I've let myself become depressed and ill, and I can't believe it. And that afternoon I laid down in my bed and I took a nap in the daylight, and my sweet wife came to me in a dream. She was so beautiful, and she said, I have two things to share with you. And I said, wow, what are they? And she said, do you remember when I first worked for you, you sat me down. I was moping because I was a new supervisor and nobody was being nice to me as a new supervisor. And do you remember the talk you gave me? And in the dream, I responded, yeah. And she said, you told me leaders, they lead or they get out of the way. And I've given that talk to many young supervisors who've worked for me along the way. And I always accompany two things. I always say that great leaders tell the truth. So if somebody needs to improve, we tell them the truth because that's a gift that you're giving somebody. And number two, we always are humble enough to ask for help. Great leaders ask for help. So she tells me this. Now, in my dream, I'm thinking, am I supposed to go back to work, lead? That's, I guess, what I'm supposed to do is go back to work. And then she turned to walk away in my dream. And I said, well, wait, what's the other thing? And she mouthed the phrase self governance. Self governance. And I'm like, what? Wait. And she left. So I wake up and I'm Googling self-governance. Like, what the heck? Self-governance. I'm going to the scriptures. I'm Googling, I'm looking at up the people I like to read that are in the business of helping people. And I can't find anything on self-governance. And so I said a prayer. Can you please reveal to me what in the heck am I supposed to be doing? Am I supposed to go back to work, lead, or get out of the way? And it dawned on me that what the Lord was trying to tell me was that I had to take charge of my circumstances, that nobody was going to come in and make me exercise. No one's going to handcuff me to a table and make me eat the proper thing. And as far as the depression goes, nobody's going to make me happy. I have to figure out the ways to do it. However, as I had advised lots of people along the way, it's okay to ask for help. And so I started asking around and asking people how they beat depression. And I stumbled upon an oldie but a goodie, which is daily non-negotiables. Now, I'd used this concept in business for years. In banking, daily non-negotiables had to do with how many certain activities, how many times we would engage a client about investments or about loans, that type of thing. But in my personal life, I had abandoned non-negotiables. And so I came up with some non-negotiables, things like I was going to walk every day. I was going to say my prayers every day. I was going to do scripture study every day. I was going to do a kind act for another every day. I was going to clean inside and outside for 10 minutes a day. I'd taken piano lessons as a kid. I hadn't played the piano in 30 years. I was going to practice the piano. I made these non-negotiables, and then I sat down and wrote a list of 14 rules. Now, a couple of them are super personal, but I'll share a few of them with you. Things like 100% self-honesty on my check marks on my daily non-negotiables and my daily to-dos. So it was about having daily planning sessions with myself and just taking accountability. Another rule on that list was if the Lord called on me to do an assignment or gave me a calling at church, to take it as though the Lord personally had asked me to do it and to get it done and do it right. I'd always taught the kids this principle that even if you're working in fast food or throwing newspapers or mowing lawns, you got to be there anyway. You might as well do it right. Do it the best of your ability. Someone's got to be employee of the year. It might as well be you. And I realized that what my wife was trying to tell me was that I had lost all personal ownership. I heard a sermon recently about the 10 virgins. And the quote was, we can't always share our oil with others, but we can always share our light. And I've started doing these kind acts. And it's addictive. It's amazing. Long story short, in about 4.5 months, I dropped 50 pounds. My blood pressure went with serious loads of volumes of medicine from like 140/98 to, I was at the cardiologist the other day, 118/77. My depression medication has been cut in half. I read 6 books over the summer. I read an entire canon of the scriptures over the summer. I've written a book. Now, I am not an author. I'm just an old guy that played sports and then became a banker. But I've written a book on self-governance, and I'm a long way away from getting it published. But I figured out that the ugly thoughts that I was having, the thoughts literally of self-demise, were because my mind was idle and I wasn't in charge. And that key point of ask for help, the person that I had failed to ask for help was God. And I had taught this week after week in my home to my own children that, there's no problem that he doesn't understand or want to help you with. He's not going to just give you his oil. You've got to come to him. And yes, there's grace. Of course, there's grace. I am the benefactor of so much grace. But there's also intentional efforts. CeCe always had a saying, adversity never makes an appointment. Think about that for a second. Adversity never makes an appointment. The question is, what are you going to do when it happens? And I am now equipped that when the next adversity comes, and it sure will, I'm not going to lay down and put the pillow over my head. I'm going to continue to count on him. I'm going to continue to say my prayers and study the scriptures. I'm going to continue to look for people in my community. I've joined a multi-faith breakfast club. Now, these guys are a riot. It's at McDonald's every morning, 5 days a week. So there's a guy in there, 93 years old. We're all from different faiths, and we tackle the problems of the world without it making it personal or political. We advise and coach each other. 90% of these guys are widowers like I am, and it's a forum where you can tell a story. The other day, a guy told a story that he hadn't told in 50 years, and he cried. And to be a contributor to an environment where somebody feels that comfortable and that safe, to me, that is what we're supposed to be doing. And so I'll stop there. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I miss her so, Liza. I miss her every day. And I see my kids, and they're not perfect, and they're all still figuring it out. But I see them living the principles that we tried to teach them. And I'm just grateful that I've rediscovered my faith. I'm grateful that I've overcome the ugly thoughts. The depression isn't 100% gone. However, I now have good habits that allow me to isolate it and to be in charge of it and to not be the little victim. People from the outside were looking in saying, look at all this success. They had no idea how much personal despair I was feeling. Well, now I'm able to own my own paradigm, self-governance. That's the word I would use. And I'm just really super grateful for the chance to tell my story.
Well, I love this. I think it's beautiful. There's so many miracles that I see throughout your story. What a gift that your wife came to you. First of all, I just want to acknowledge I'm sorry for that loss.
Thank you so much.
Death is hard, but beautiful that she came to you with a message from God to kind of wake you up and get you back on your feet and say, time to get going again, because you're not done here. I want to read your book. I'm excited for you. And I really do want to read your book because it sounds like you have, from your own personal experience, so much wisdom to share with your readers about what self-governance is. I'm assuming that's what your book is about.
It is. I was able to, as I read this canon of the scriptures, I was able to take precise notes along the way, looking through the lens of ownership and fatherhood. Like if I was counseling my own kids, like what would I say to my kids when they run up against adversity? So it's a bit of those anecdotal insights, Scott's insights, not probably the insights that some great theologian might share, but my insights. And then also and boy, I'm pretty humble with the word wisdom, but my experiences and my learnings that got me to where I'm at. So I'd be honored to share that with you. I'm probably a long way away, but absolutely, I'll share that. And if it can help anybody else figure out what it helped me figure out, that'd be great.
I love it. I love the idea too of non-negotiables. It's really making me reflect on how lazy sometimes I've become, where I don't have so many non-negotiables anymore. Like I'm just kind of floating along and really gaining that self-governance, gaining that control back of who you want to become, how you want to be is really powerful.
I think we're hardwired. Like one of the non-negotiables is clean 10 minutes inside. Listen, when you haven't done anything and the pillow's been over your head for a couple of years and you're cleaning 10 minutes a day, that adds up and the house looks pretty good. The same thing. I sit on a couple acres here in Kentucky and I'd let the stuff go 10 minutes a day. It looks pretty good. So, it's like I'm going to not exercise or I'm going to run 8 miles a day. No, I got an idea. How about you start by saying every day I'm going to walk a mile a day and see what happens. And I went from shuffling that first little bit a mile a day to now I can run 3 miles a day every day.
That's amazing. The other thing I love in your story, which I think all of us can relate to, is you really, even though the outside world can see your progress, you're the one that understands how miraculous that is because you've been in the before and the after, and you can see the difference and the miracles that have taken place in your life. That's the beauty of life.
It is the beauty of life. I always try to teach the kids, be who you say you are. So if you're sitting in Sunday school on Sunday and then on Tuesday you're hanging around the locker and the conduct isn't congruent, isn't consistent, be who you say you are. And I was not being who I said I was. If I had cleaned up during all that and gone somewhere, and somebody had said, are you a Christian? Do you have faith? I would have said, oh, absolutely. But it wasn't coming out in the execution. Yeah, me against me. I'm a golfer. Me against me. I could try to get out there and play against that guy or that guy. I just play against me. If I can beat what I think I should be doing, then I'm doing pretty well.
I love it. And I think that's a good message for all of us too. Very inspiring that we're not competing with other people. We really are here to become our best self, who we're here to be. And it takes discipline and it takes that self-governance to do that. And so it really is our own personal journey, not to be compared to anyone else because it's going to look different. Yeah, it's you against you. It's you working with you and you owning you and with God's help. And I love that you said that CeCe said, ask for help. Good leaders know when to ask for help, and that asking God for help is going to trump everything.
Amen.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey and the miracles that you've seen. It truly is very inspiring. And I'm happy for you that you have seen such beautiful progress and miracles in your life.
Grateful from Eastern Kentucky. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's our episode for this week. I really appreciate Scott's willingness to share his beautiful miracles and the journey that he has been through with self-governance. His daughter, Allie, was a student of mine several years ago, and she's the one that recommended him for my podcast. And I think it's because she has seen the miraculous transformation that has taken place in his life. And he has seen the miraculous transformation. And really, like I said earlier, only he will know the true miracle that has taken place for him. But I especially loved that his late wife, CeCe, appeared to him in a dream and helped him understand that he wasn't reaching his potential and that there were things that he needed to do to change his life and create the miracles that he is now experiencing and has experienced with his need for self-governance and to ask for help. A good leader asks for help. I love that she spoke in his language too, and that it was intriguing enough for him to be curious. What is self-governance that sent him on a journey? It also made me think and inspired me to think about my non-negotiables. What are my non-negotiables? Maybe I need to revisit that again and create some new spiritual non-negotiables for my spiritual health, physical health, mental health. I think it's all the same. We're here to develop and grow and learn, and that's part of the miracle of life. So I appreciate that message as well, Scott. So thank you so much for sharing. I also want to remind us of my journal, The Blessings I Witnessed Today. I created this in hopes that we can record our blessings and miracles on the daily basis. You might also want to include your non-negotiables, revisit that, pray about it. What are my non-negotiables? What are the things that I should be doing that would be really helpful and beneficial for me to reach my potential and to do the things that I came here to do on the planet at this time? So you can find that journal at wondersandmiracles.com or on amazon.com and start recording the blessings and miracles that you witness in your life. Also, Christmas is coming up. Grab a copy for your friend, a family member, and help encourage them to start recording their miracles as well. And remember to notice and celebrate miracles everywhere, because the more miracles we notice, the more miracles happen. Have a blessed day.